Hello and welcome. Isn't it funny how suddenly we've all become video stars? Love it or hate it, our world has changed and we're doing more and more of our interactions in the virtual space. And like it or not, just like in the real world, people make assumptions based on how we come across. So it's important, particularly when you're first meeting someone on video, to make sure you come across as your best, obviously. Now, you suddenly find yourself in front of a camera, but what if you haven't had the opportunity to learn the tools and techniques to ensure that you do come across as your best? Well, if that's the case, I'm assuming that's why you're joining me, and thank you for joining me. Today, I'm going to share with you the three biggest mistakes that I see people making on video. I'm going to talk about how you can prepare yourself so that you come across well on screen. And finally, I'm going to look at how you can use the red effect to stand out, make an impact, and be remembered in under a virtual minute. So thank you for joining me. You're welcome to take notes if you like, but if you would like a free download of the information that I'm sharing today, you can access that at melsherwood.com/video tips. That's melsherwood.com/video tips. And that will have everything that I am covering today and probably more. Now, you may be wondering who I am, why I'm here. You know, my name is Mel Sherwood, and I work with entrepreneurs and business professionals who want to express themselves with more confidence, credibility, and charisma. I have a really mixed background. I have worked as a performer, as an actor, a singer, a presenter for many years and still do. But alongside that, I've also worked in business for a long time in mainly communications type roles, such as marketing, customer relations, learning and development. And so I really have this fascination about communication, and in particular, how we use our body, our voice, our mind, and our heart to really connect with and engage people, whether that's online or face-to-face in real life. So I'm really looking forward to sharing my tips with you today. Now, the first thing that I'm going to start with is the mistakes that I see people making on video. And the first mistake is around the environment. So given that most of us are working from home at the moment, we might be communicating from our home office, if we're lucky enough to have one. If not, we might be at our kitchen table, in our spare bedroom, perhaps in a cupboard somewhere. And so it's important to think about, what is that saying about us, and is it what we want to say about us? And so one of the things to think about is what's going on behind you. So is your background cluttered and fussy? Has it got, I don't know, you're drying your washing behind you? Things like that can really show up, be magnified when we are in this little box. So it's important to be aware of what's going on behind you. Also, what type of lighting is there? Can people see you okay? And the most natural and effective lighting is to sit yourself with a window in front of you if you have the opportunity to do that. And you'll get the best, and to my mind, most flattering light, which is always good, if you're sitting in front of a window. If you sit with a window behind you, you'll end up in shadow or silhouetted, which is not ideal if you're trying to connect with and engage people. So think about the lighting. Some people choose to have ring lights or fancy lights specifically for video calls and videos, but I don't think you need it. You can if you want to, but even if you don't have enough light, simple, a lamp either side of your device. Just look at, test a few different things out to see what works best for you. So you need to be seen. It needs to be clear and uncluttered background. And you need to make sure that there are no distractions around, obviously, whether that's barking dogs or machinery and building work going on outside. Those things can really impact it as well. So think about the noise environment too. So one tip that a lot of people use, if you do live with other people, is to shut the door and put a "please do not disturb" sign on the door. The only thing I get disturbed by is my cat, so she might make an appearance at some stage. So yeah, that's kind of what you need to think about in terms of your environment. The next thing is the framing of how you appear on the screen. And one of the things that I see often is people who sit themselves too low down in the screen. I'm just going to move my screen now so you can have a look at how that might look. And what you see is that instantly I've lost credibility. There's less presence. I have less gravitas and authority if I'm too low down in the screen and there's too much space above me. And that can either be the angle of the way you're using your laptop, but it might also be because your camera is too high or too low. And if it's too low and you're looking down into the camera, it's not a particularly flattering angle, but also it can sometimes look like you're looking down on people, and that's not ideal either. If it's too high and you're kind of getting that selfie effect when you're looking up into the lens, that's not the best idea either. So when you think about framing, think about, you know, what's in that frame. How is that looking? And I need to just adjust this again because it's annoying me in terms of the angles of the lines. And it's one of the easiest ways to actually look at it is to see where the straight lines are in the screen. The other thing that's really important in terms of, no matter how close you are to the screen or however far back you are, but actually if your eye line is around about a third of the way from the top of the screen, that's going to give you the most presence on screen, and it will make it easier for you to really connect with the camera. So that's looking at framing. Make sure that you are framed well and that there's, you know, you're filling the screen so that you have more presence on camera. The third mistake that I see is around where people are looking. And the temptation, and I know it's a temptation, is to look at ourselves. And if I look at myself right now, I start to get all paranoid and I'm looking at what's going on with my hair and all the rest of it, but I am actually looking at myself. So suddenly I've lost the engagement with you. Whereas if I look directly into the lens, there's more chance of connecting with you and engaging you, even though it feels like the most unnatural thing to do. So the other thing that we do, if we're not looking at ourselves, we're looking at other people on the screen, which is fine to a degree. And obviously, if we're listening to people, we might want to look at them. But when we're talking or we want to connect with people, or if we want people to feel really heard, then looking into the camera lens is really important. And it's also important to remember that the camera lens may not be directly in front of you. If you're using a webcam or the camera on your laptop, then it's usually going to be in the center. But if you're using a phone, quite often the camera lens will be up to one side. So if you're looking at yourself in the phone, it will look like you're communicating like this. Whereas if you find the lens and look directly into it, that will give you the best result. Now, if you need a reminder, because this isn't a natural thing to do, it does get easier with practice. And I obviously, with a background as a presenter of training videos and various other things, it now feels more natural for me to look into the camera lens than not. So it does get easier with practice. And one of the things you can do to remind yourself is to put a post-it note with a big arrow pointing to the actual camera lens. Or you might want to put a little smiley face or a little something that helps you to remember where to look. One more thing with regard to looking into the camera lens. It's almost like you're looking through the camera lens to a person at the other side. And it really works effectively if you imagine a real person at the other side. I like to think about my favorite person because that's when I come across as more warm and friendly. But if you're communicating with someone at the other side, then you have to imagine that you're looking directly at them as you're looking into the camera lens. So they are the three biggest mistakes and how to fix them. So thinking about your environment, thinking about the framing, and also thinking about where you're looking. Now that takes me on to how do you prepare to be on video? And quite often when we think about preparing for a meeting or a presentation that we might be giving, we often think about what we're going to say. And we sometimes forget about preparing the other things that might be impacted. Now, obviously, preparing your environment is quite key, and knowing, you know, where you're looking and where you're going to keep your notes and all of that sort of thing is very important. But also, have you ever considered preparing your body, your voice, and your mind? So firstly, I'm going to look at our body and how do we actually prepare that? And one of the things that happens if we're a bit nervous about things, we get quite tense. And tension means that we don't come across as relaxed. It also impacts our voice in a big way. So if you're feeling a bit nervous before a video call or filming something, then simply shaking out some of that tension can really help. Doing a few stretches, rolling the shoulders, that kind of thing, making sure that you feel relaxed. If you're someone who likes to get energized and maybe running on the spot, or some star jumps, or go for a run beforehand, so that you have the right energy around your body and you feel good. As I said, if you're tense, you may look at things that work for you in terms of relaxing you. So preparing your body, really important. Some of you may have heard of Amy Cuddy and her TED Talk, which is around power posing. And there's been a lot of controversy around the research that she did at Harvard University. But actually, anecdotally, what she came up with really works for a lot of people. And I know that my clients love it. And the whole idea of power posing is to make yourself bigger. And so if you think about animals, when they want to look more powerful, they fluff out their feathers or their spikes and they make themselves bigger. People do it as well. In the boxing ring, you might see it when someone wants to make themselves look more powerful. So what Amy's research showed is that if you hold a power pose, meaning either a victory pose or a Wonder Woman pose or Superman, for just a couple of minutes, it can change your body chemistry. So increases testosterone, reduces cortisol, the stress hormone, so that you not only look more powerful and confident, but you feel more powerful and confident as well. As I said, there's been some controversy around that research, but I encourage you to try it. If you don't have an opportunity to stand away from the screen and do a power pose, here's another little tip, and you can try it right now wherever you are, whether you're sitting or standing. Pop your hands beside you and then just simply turn your wrists forward. And as you've got your wrists forward, it feels like it kind of opens up your body. And for me, it almost feels like I'm kind of, channeling the universe or something. There's a lovely energy, and it makes me feel more open and welcoming, and therefore more engaging when I'm online. So simply turning your wrist forwards is another great tip to prepare your body. The next thing we want to think about is preparing our voice. And this actually became really apparent to me the more and more that I was working alone in my office and working from home. And so, and in particular, one particular day, I went to it in the days when we used to have face-to-face in-person networking events, I actually went to a networking event, an early morning one. And I'll admit, I'm not a morning person. I don't know about you, but I don't love the mornings. So this particular morning, I kept hitting snooze on my alarm until I was going to be very, very late. So I quickly got myself ready and got myself to the event. And it was one of those events where there's a little bit of interaction beforehand, informal chit chat, and then everyone has an opportunity to stand up and talk about their business for a minute. And I arrived after the informal chit chat, right when the formal presentations really were starting. I was the fifth person to speak. I stood up and opened my mouth to talk about my business, and what came out of my mouth was not what I expected. It certainly wasn't my voice, or it was, but it was squawky and croaky and very awkward. And I realized that actually that was the first time I'd opened my mouth to speak that day. Now, as an actor, I would never dream of going in front of an audience without warming up my voice. Yet here I am in front of my business audience at this networking event, promoting my business about public speaking, mind you, and I hadn't warmed up my voice, and my voice sounded really croaky and uncertain. And I realized the importance of doing that even more so when I'm working alone at my home, in my home office. I may not speak to people early in the morning or at all during the day if I'm not on video calls. So I make sure now that I do a little bit of a warm up of my voice, and that can simply be a bit of humming or singing. I also like to do some tongue twisters. But the other thing with regard to your voice is to start to warm up the elements or the parts of your body that help you produce speech. Now, the first thing, as I said before, tension is the enemy of your voice. So you want to make sure you roll your shoulders and shake out any tension, and then start to wake up what helps you to speak clearly and articulate your words well. And things like simply massaging your face, waking it up in that way. And this is all going to be a bit weird for you, I think. It's not so weird for me because I do it all the time, but this is something you don't need to do in front of camera unless you're me. But give it a try. If there's no one around, just try this as you go and see the difference as you do it as to how you feel in terms of the way you're able to speak. So another thing you can do is imagine that the tip of your tongue is a paintbrush. And I want you to pick your favorite color and then paint the inside of your mouth with that paintbrush, every single part of the inside of your mouth. So behind your teeth, in front of your teeth, along your teeth, into every corner that you can. And you'll start to feel that wake up. And that kind of exercises your tongue as well. Then you might want to make sure that you're nice and relaxed. Your lips are relaxed. So just simply a few little, and then if you can roll your tongue, and I like to add a bit of sound to this, a bit of a siren sound. So I go, and to be honest, if I don't get a chance to do any other vocal warm-up, that's the one that I do because it seems to wake everything up. The other thing you can do is take some air into your mouth, move that all around, and then purse your lips and draw a figure 8. So I don't feel like I'm doing that very effectively at the moment. But you can draw big circles with your pursed lips as well. And back the other way. And then just imagine that you're chewing a huge big piece of chewing gum and really make it work. So that's sort of it. You'll start to feel that your face is feeling more alive and you're able to express yourself more effectively. I've got another little tip here. This is about you put a cork in it, okay? So a cork or anything similar is fine. But what you do is place it between your teeth like so. And then start to deliver a bit of your pitch or your presentation, or just start speaking, reading something from the newspaper with the cork in your mouth. And what you'll find is your mouth has to work really, really hard. Those muscles are really working to enable you to produce the sounds of the words. And when you take the cork out, everything will be so much easier. The other thing is, if you trip over your words, tongue twisters can be really helpful. And if you've ever seen me present before, or you've seen me on LinkedIn, I have what I call Tongue Twister Tuesday. If you check out my YouTube channel, you'll find lots and lots of tongue twister videos. And simply a few tongue twisters before you get online can be really helpful as well in terms of getting you ready to make a powerful impact when you're online. So that's the voice. We've talked about the body, the voice, and then finally the mind. And there are all sorts of things that we can do to prepare our mind. But that brings me to the red effect that I mentioned earlier. And there's a big long backstory as to how I developed the red effect. But essentially, it's about making a choice as to how you show up and making sure that you connect with that authentic part of yourself, but present the best part of that authentic part of yourself, if that makes sense. So every day we are making choices. We make choices as to how we respond to things and how we approach things. Now, in my background as an actor, I was making choices all the time for each character. If I was playing a character that was nervous and uncomfortable, then I'd have to get myself into that state, that nervous and uncomfortable state. So I'd have to connect with that part of me that was able to authentically express nervous and uncomfortable. If I was playing a character that was excited and happy, then I have to connect with that part of myself. If I was playing a character that was calm and poised and confident, again, that's a different type of energy. And I'd need to connect into that truth of me in order to express that authentically and make sure that character was real and well-rounded. Now, the thing is, with the red effect, we can do that ourselves. We can actually choose what part of us we want to share with people. And RED, the word red, is actually an acronym. And I like to think about choosing different words that start with R, E, or D in terms of the energy or the feelings that I want to feel when I'm connecting with people, or the way I show up, when I enter a room, whether it's a live room or a Zoom room. So you might want to be, in one circumstance, you might want to be radiant, enchanting, and dazzling. In another one, you might want to be real, expressive, and dynamic. Or perhaps you just want to be relaxed, engaging, and delightful. So you have a choice at any given time as to how you show up and what shade of red, as I like to call it, that you apply. So that's one way to really help get your mind in the right state to ensure that you make a great first impression and a powerful impact when you're communicating online. So hopefully that was helpful. Remember, we looked at those three biggest mistakes, that the fact that we need to get our environment right and our lighting and our backgrounds, and make sure we're in a quiet space in order to come across well on video. We need to make sure that our eye line is right, we're looking into the camera, and that our framing is good as well. Then we need to think about how we prepare our bodies and our voices, and finally our minds, using the red effect and choosing your shade of red. As I mentioned earlier, if you would like these hints and tips, you can download them for free at my website at melsherwood.com/video tips. That's melsherwood.com/video tips. And it will have a reminder of everything I've covered in today's session. So it's been really lovely to join you today. I really look forward to seeing you online really soon.